Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It is about 10 minutes after 4 o'clock on April 8th, 2014, and we're going to take a look at the chart after I remind you that the website and this video are for educational purposes only, and nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I control lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research, and please make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. Don't invest your lunch money. Invest wisely. But even though that's sage advice, I am still not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. Starting out with an hourly chart, this just kind of helps us put it in perspective that we had this inverted and truncated head and shoulders pattern here with a well-established resistance area between 1840 and 1850, and that's not exact. I'm calling it that because that's about where it is. But as we saw today, we got a little bit under 1840. I don't think that's any big deal because it is a fuzzy area, and even though I've been calling it 1840 to 1850, obviously it's kind of like a recipe that calls for 2 cups of this, 1 cup of that, and a half a cup of something else. You know, 1 3/4 cups, 1.8 cups, 5/8. It's going to make the same recipe basically. So when I talk about 1840 to 1850, especially since we know it's a fuzzy area, I'm not going to get too hung up on that 1840 being the very, very, very lowest part of that range. But you can see that we got above that range and we have made 3 peaks over it, with the last one being higher than the previous 2. And it's looked at times like if we could close over 1900 that we would initiate a new leg up, but just can't yet get that close. Now, this teal line actually goes back quite a ways, all the way to November of 2012, and you can see that it really only has one low that it is touching, other than that 2012 low, which really I think at this point means I mean, we can keep it on the chart, but I haven't talked about it that much because I really have not been that concerned about that line, because we have other trend lines that I think are much more important. For example, we've got this line down here that has 1, 2, 3 recent touches. I think that's pretty important. That one is currently right at about approximately 1800. So that's why I think if we break down underneath this 1840 to 1850 range, I think a trip down to test this line right around 1800 is a very likely event. But let's take a look at the chart. I mentioned yesterday that we had a well-established support line right here. Even though this is almost a straight line move down, I know it's kind of hard to think of what we've seen over the past 2 days and say that in that there is support. But I think that's a decent little support line. Certainly this is a good resistance line, and we got over that resistance line yesterday. Today we ducked under 1840 briefly, then took out the parallel line to our support line right here. You know, guys, this looked like a wedge. This looked like it had a limit built into it. And that limit is typically the apex of the wedge, which in this case would actually be around 1830. But it looks to me as if we may be forming another little reversal here. And if that's the case, then we should be in the process of turning this boat. Now, it's not turned yet. We've got to get up over this little neckline. If we break out over this little neckline right here, obviously this would become kind of an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Strangely enough, one with a double right shoulder, if it turns out that way. But if we get over this neckline, then I think we are likely going to see a move to about 1870 as a target from this pattern. And you know, with 1870 and a reversal, it seems to make sense that we would come back up at that point and give this line another go up here at about 1884. So that's basically where we are, guys. We got, it looks like, to me it looks almost as if the S&P just got over this line prematurely, and for doing that it paid the price for about 2 days. So let's see if going forward, if we end up coming back up to re-challenge this line, and if so, are we far enough to the right now to where we have potential clear sailing to make that target from this larger inverted and truncated head and shoulders pattern? Because while we're above this 1840 to 1850 line, I think we still got to keep this target in mind. If we duck down below this, then you know, we could be looking at a pattern that has failed. But until it fails, I think we have to kind of keep it on the in the forefront of our thinking and say it looks like we're probably gonna make it. So guys, I think it's just that simple. Looks like we're firming up down here, hopefully to take out this little neckline and to make a move up to about 1870 tomorrow or the next day. And I want to remind you, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, anything can happen, because they're releasing the minutes of the FOMC meeting 3 weeks ago, and that tends to that tends to take the markets for something of a wild ride in the afternoon. So just be prepared for that. So there you go, guys. Looks like we may be firming up. We'll get a little confirmation tomorrow. Get over that little neckline right here. That should be setting up our move to 1870. And with that move to 1870, I would expect there to be some continuation to give a go at 1884 again. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this. Thank you for your support. Take care.